So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to start a property portfolio. And at the time of making this video, I currently hold 6 buy-to-let properties and I fully plan on adding more to that in the future. And also, if you stick around to the end of this video, I've actually put a link to another video that explains how many buy-to-let properties you need to retire. So make sure you check that one out when you get to the end of this video. So when it comes to starting a property portfolio, the hardest thing for most people is actually getting started. So I'm not going to tell you to go and find a property that's 40 grand below market value, or to go and find some big development and renovate and create wealth through that way, because it just simply isn't viable. You see all these videos on YouTube of people saying, oh yeah, flip a property, go and buy the property for 30 grand less, spend 30 grand on it and make 60 grand profit. And it all sounds well and good, but then you go on to Rightmove and you search for properties like this and they're just not available. And if they are available, there's 20 or 30 other people also after that property, and the actual end price, the actual sale price, is not much under what the property will be worth when it's done. So in this video, I'm just going to outline the basic principles in which I use to build a property portfolio and what you should use if you're thinking about starting out now or you want to buy your first or second property. Because the way I do it and the way I look at it is, don't try to be clever, don't try to do something that everybody else is doing. It's all well and good buying a below market property or flipping properties, but when you do this, your market's shrunk from up here down to here, because as there simply isn't as many properties for sale or on the market that actually require refurbishment. Whereas the properties that I personally buy, there's actually hundreds and hundreds of them all the time. So to get started in property, the first thing that you should do is, number one, start saving money. And whilst you're saving money, also increase your knowledge and learn about property and buying property and everything that you can to give you a good head start to when you do actually come to buying your first house. And another thing that I would highly recommend when starting your own portfolio is to don't try and run before you can walk. And by this, what I mean is, just start out with a basic property like a terraced house or a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment that's below £100,000. You don't need to be doing big projects and big developments or buying apartment blocks or 4-bedroom semi-detached houses, because at this stage, the one thing you don't have, which can't be taught, is experience. So I definitely believe that if you start out low, start out with a property below £100,000, go through the whole process of viewing, negotiating, buying, dealing with solicitors, getting your first tenant in. All this can be done on a smaller budget, on a lower scale. Then once you've done this once or twice, then you'll have the experience to up your game and maybe look into other avenues of property investment. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you start small and always look for properties below £100,000 to get you going. Sorry if you can hear that noise, it's raining, hailing and all sorts outside. Now it's getting louder. Anyway, cracking on with the video. The next piece of advice that I give is to take your time. Okay, so once you brought your first buy-to-let property, just take your time, collect the rent each month, save your rent each month, and build up another cash pot for your next property. Because not only will you be building a cash pot from the rent that you receive, there's also a highly likely chance that your property will increase in capital appreciation. So when you buy your first buy-to-let, always ensure that you buy on a 2 years fixed mortgage, because this then gives you the option after 2 years of remortgaging. Now, if the value of that house has increased during that time, which more than likely it will, then you can release equity from that property when you remortgage. Now, this means that you'll have another lump sum of money ready to invest into your next property. Now, if you add this to all the money that you've been saving in rent, then it won't take you long before you have enough money for the deposit for your next house. But as I said, take your time. You don't need to rush these things. The thing with property investing and building a portfolio, the graph starts, imagine you buying a property here and then your next one and your next one, and it gradually increases, and the more you get, the sharper that curve will increase, where eventually you can buy multiple properties every year. So my next piece of advice is get out there and do something. Go and start viewing properties from today. Look at Rightmove every night. Get an idea of what houses are worth, what they're going for in certain areas and certain streets, and then get in contact with estate agents. Get yourself known and go and view some properties. Okay, so at least you're in the game, even if you don't plan on buying one for another 6 months, 18 months, 3 years, or whatever it may be. So if you're just starting out and you want to build a property portfolio, start by learning and improving your knowledge. Start saving money from today. Start being active and speak to estate agents and go and actually view properties so that you know what you're dealing with. And lastly, have a plan. Have a plan for the type of property you're going to buy, how much that will make you each month, and at what point you'll have enough of a cash pot to go and buy a second property. Now, when you're looking for properties, here are a few quick tips to consider. Now, as I said before, keep the price below £100,000 if you can. Now, I know this is not viable in a lot of areas, or just the property market may not be at that level where you live, so you're going to have to look at different areas where property investment on this scale is viable. So if you head over to Rightmove and check out properties in a certain area so you can get an idea of the value and what they're selling for, and then go on to Rightmove again and click on the rent section and get an idea of what the properties you're looking for actually fetch in rent. Now, a quick calculation that I always use when viewing a property or analysing a property is the rental yield. Now, this is really important because it's the basis of the whole investment. So, for example, if the property is £100,000 and it earns £5,000 in rent per year, then that's a 5% yield. Okay, so what we're looking for is a minimum, like absolute minimum of 5 or 5.5%. Then, once you've shortlisted a number of properties that are below £100,000 and have a yield of at least 5.5%, then you have a basis to go and start viewing those properties and negotiating deals. Another good piece of advice that I can give, and as the saying goes, your network is your net worth. So by this, what we mean is you need to start building a team of people around you to make the whole process easier and to accelerate your success. So things like estate agents, build good relationships with them, speak to them on the phone. Mortgage broker, very important. I always suggest using a mortgage broker because they deal with a lot of the crap that you probably don't want to deal with, and they always find you the best deals. The next thing is a letting agent, very important again, because you want to ensure that you get really good tenants in your properties. I really wouldn't recommend advertising yourself, especially on Facebook and things like that, because you never know who you're allowing into your property. Now, if you use an experienced letting agent, they will do all the checks, they will have their knowledge and experience to actually judge a person because they do it every day, all of the time, and it's far more likely that they will get you a better tenant in your property, which means they'll be there for longer, they'll pay the rent on time, and they're more than likely than not actually keep the property in good nick. Another member of your team, which you have to have, is a plumber and electrician, because every time you buy a property you need a gas safety certificate and electrical certificates done. Now, I know that a lot of people know somebody who's a plumber or electrician, or they know somebody who knows somebody, so it's always good to have their details on hand and just explain to them that you're going to be buying a property and you're probably going to buy more, so if it's okay with them, can you contact them whenever to get a gas certificate done or electrical certificate on the property. So more than likely they'll be happy to do that because obviously they'll be getting paid. Now, one of the biggest setbacks of starting a portfolio for the majority of people is the initial capital to get started. Okay, so when you buy a property, especially a buy-to-let property, the loan to value, which is what the lender is willing to lend you on the basis of the price of the property, is usually 75%. So if the property is £100,000, then the mortgage lender will give you £75,000. Now that means that you're going to need £25,000 deposit plus solicitors fees plus stamp duty. So I do understand that this is a a big lump sum and a large amount of money for a lot of people, and it's really difficult to actually save that amount of money to get started. Now, there are lots of other ways of raising this funds, raising the capital, by doing joint ventures, getting family and friends involved, working with investors and things like that. And although they're all good ways of getting on the property market without any funds, I still always suggest that you try and save as much money of your own as you can, because the more money that you put in yourself, the more equity you've got in that property and the more profits you're going to make from it. So, as I said at the start, just keep saving and saving and saving as much as you possibly can so you can get that first property. And trust me, once you have the first buy to let, things become a lot easier, because you start making money off that property every month and the property increases in value, which increases your cash pot to then buy another one. So although there are all these good strategies and you get a lot of people talking about how you can buy a property with no money down and all of this, yes, you probably can, but from my experience, I'd always suggest try and save your own money, go alone, buy a property, build a portfolio, and reap all the rewards, because all that is your money, your cash. You're not giving away money to investors or giving a percentage of your profits away to joint venture partners or anything like that. Now, I hope you enjoyed this quick video, and as promised, here's the link to the video that explains how many properties you need to be able to retire, which is quite interesting. And I think a lot of people actually like the thought of owning properties to allow them to retire, because obviously a lot of the income is passive income, and that's something that you want as you get on in life. I'm certainly building a portfolio as large as I possibly can so that I have an income for life, so to speak, and I can also pass this on to my children. So yeah, there you go. There's my tips and advice for starting a property portfolio. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button, and don't forget to check out this video here.